We're here at the mouth of the Flint River, where the Flint actually starts to turn into a lake. And what you have, it's the first place where the current actually starts to, you start to see a buildup of current because it's neck down in that area. It gets narrow. So the current, along with a lot of flats in this area of the lake, are funneling the fish to the outside edges of the channel. And basically what I had been doing the first 3 days of competition is throwing a man's crankbait along these edges. And I'm switching up colors, and I'm switching up running depths of crankbaits to get them to hit different zones. See, it's nice just to get that, when you get that first fish, you know what I mean? You know that they're still here, you know that they're going to bite. That first fish is really important, you know?
There we go. This could be that important fish he's talking about, so I'm sure he'll be all calm and completely nonchalant after this, right?
Well, and you know, the first fish is important to every fisherman, but it does seem like it's even more important to the guy who's in the lead because, and we watch him throw a buoy out right there, but you do not want to fish defensively, and boy, you do until you have put 1 or 2 fish in the boat.
Thank you, Lord.
Welcome back to Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. Mike Iaconelli, our leader here on Lake Seminole, and now he's really getting down to business.
And if you think that throwing a lipless crankbait out there is a no-brainer, just throw it out there and reel it back to the boat. Yeah. Watch this guy work it. Boy, he really does a job with it, and he's been doing an exceptional job all week long.
Oh, God, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Okay, that one was back in the zone that I had been catching them in. Fish was in about 12 feet of water. Outside hydrilla line. Oh, yes. Feeling it now. See, now's the deal where most fishermen go wrong. Now you got to keep it going right now. When that adrenaline starts flowing, you just don't let it quit. Thank you, Lord. Horrible net job there. Now I'm shaking and I can't tie the bait. That's the kind. That's the kind right there. I just got to relax. They're here. Even with the lack of current, they're still here. I'll tell you what the deal's going to be. I'm just going to have to work harder for them and make them react. I'm going to be doing that jerk deal all day because that's both fish came when I was getting it out of the hydrilla. Yeah, it is. You know, anytime you make the top 10, you get a certain amount of excitement, you know, and I haven't made one in over a year, so I'm real excited. The fishing's been good for me this week and just really pumped up.
You know, a viewer might think that you're just out there throwing in open water, but you're not. You're throwing at points and pockets that the grass is making.
That's right. Yeah, this lake is filled with type of vegetation called hydrilla, and what it does is it grows off of these points, off of these flats, and it actually will make edges or defined edges. And that's basically been the pattern this week. I'm throwing a crankbait along these deeper edges, trying to intercept the pre-spawn fish that are staging out here. And you know, probably the biggest key for me has been the equipment this week. It's really the final element you need to fish this hydrilla.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, most people, when you think about fishing hydrilla or grass, you think about fishing slow and dropping a jig or a worm in there, but I'm basically using my equipment to help me cover a lot of water. I'm power fishing. I'm using a crankbait, a man's crankbait. I'm using a 7-foot fiberglass rod, And what the glass rod does, it's a teamed Iowa rod, and you can actually use the forgivingness of the rod to help you get out of the hydrilla. And the last element is my sunglasses. I'm actually using my glasses more than my depth finder to follow these edges of hydrilla. They're actual visual edges.
Show us a piece of grass.
Okay.
I know probably all you have to do is dig it just a little bit deeper and you're there.
I got a big old chunk of it now. Yeah, it's a really unique vegetation. Like I said, it almost makes these walls. It's kind of messy looking, but it's a phenomenal vegetation. And again, it tops out in about 8 or 9 feet of water. And again, that's what I'm doing, just paralleling these edges with the crankbait.
Mike, I want to ask you a question. I've always wanted to ask you this question. How does a guy from New Jersey teach himself or learn how to become a world-class professional bass angler?
Well, I tell you what, I get that a lot. And, you know, you think New Jersey as being a small state and kind of polluted, but we actually have a huge amount of different types of bodies of water there. And that's what helped me growing up. I mean, we have the Pine Barrens, which are basically acidic bodies like Florida. We have glacial lakes in North Jersey, which are, you know, like your Great Lakes up north. And we have reservoirs. So we have a little bit of everything, and that was really my key to learning.
Folks, welcome your leader after 3 days of competition, Michael Iaconelli. There's your champion, 10 pounds, 8 ounces, Michael Iaconelli. Michael, what a superb effort.
Unbelievable fish. I tell you, I've had a tremendous week here. Super fishery. Lake Seminole, definitely one of the lakes that goes on my top 5 list. I mean, tremendous amount of fish and a lot of big fish. It's just been a fantastic week. It's just tremendous, unbelievable.
Here is your champion, Michael Iaconelli.
All right, all hail our champion, Mike Iaconelli.
Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli here. Welcome back out in the shop, and we're going to continue our series on tournament winning baits. This is a cool series because I'm getting a little bit of a flashback to big tournaments I've won over the years and the baits and techniques that have helped me win. For this week's shop, we're going all the way back to 2002 on Lake Seminole in Bainbridge, Georgia. Lake Seminole is awesome. It's a man-made reservoir literally on the border of Georgia and Florida, and it's a reservoir that's dammed with the 2 rivers being the Flint River to the east and the Chattahoochee River to the west. This particular tournament was in the pre-spawn, and it was a March tournament where fish were really staging in areas before they crashed the bank to spawn. You know, for my style of fishing, for sure, pre-spawn is better than spawn. When they get on the beds, I'm not as good at that. But when they're outside, when they're staging, I really enjoy that style of fishing. And you got to remember, this is way back in 2002, and the bait that essentially won this event for me, 95% of the fish I weighed came on a crankbait. Now back then, I was sponsored by Man's Bait Company, and I caught almost all my fish on a Man's 10 plus or a Man's 15 plus crankbait, depending on the depth zone. But for sure, a load of the work got done on that 10 plus Man's crankbait. You know, in today's environment and in today's fishing, this DT Rapala would be the perfect lure, right? You know, I wanted a crankbait that could reach that deeper grass, and that's what I was targeting. In the Flint River, I located some deeper grass in that 10 to 14 foot zone that was growing in front of a big spawning flat, but out toward the edge of the main river channel. So think about that. You know, that is like the perfect pre-spawn staging area. You find grass on the ledge, on the main river ledge, and it's directly in front of where those fish are eventually going to spawn. The funny thing about this area is that it was my backup area. My main area was a very similar place, but it was up by the mouth of Spring Creek. The difference is the fish on Spring Creek, because the water was warmer there, started to leave, and I lost those fish staging. But in the Flint River, the water was cooler, and these fish were staying out in that grass, 10, 12, 14 foot, but you had to make them react. And this is really a key part of this tournament win for me, was taking that crankbait, taking that old man's plug, getting it caught in the grass, and then using my rod and my body to snatch that crankbait out, and those fish were reacting on it. And that's the only way I could get them to bite. I vividly remember that tournament, and if you would throw that crankbait and just ease it along, you know, if you got snagged and you just kind of kept reeling or paused, you would never get a bite. But if you were fishing that crankbait, and when it got caught in that grass, and by the way, guys, the grass was hydrilla and milfoil. If you got caught in that grass and snatched it out, and that bait ripped out of the grass and started again, almost all of my bites occurred like that. So, you know, the retrieve was really, really critical. I want to talk to you about the rod, the reel, and the line, and then show you why this piece of it was critical. In that tournament, I used a parabolic rod that was a 7-foot glass rod. Right now, we're making them, here's the Abu Garcia Ikes series, very similar action. The reel was a moderate retrieve reel. It was like a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. Here's the Ikes series in a 6-6-to-1. Very similar moderate retrieve reel. The line was fluorocarbon. 12-pound Berkley fluorocarbon. Even back then, it was a great line. And last but not least, you know, how I used this rod in that retrieve, it was so important to have a line that was a little stretchy, fluorocarbon stretchy, to have a rod that was parabolic, because when that crankbait would get caught, I would literally take my hand off the reel, and as I move my rod up, I would smack the bottom of the rod with my hand. And it's so great because if you look back at the footage, it looks like I'm sort of having like a freak out fit when I get caught. But I'm using that rapid snapping motion to make that crankbait rubber band out of the grass. Okay, let me tell you what I mean. If I was using that crankbait and I was using a stiff rod with braided line, it would be a lot easier to fish through that deep grass. But when I pull it, because the rod is stiff and because braid has zero stretch, the crankbait would pull through the grass forward. It wouldn't come out as clean, and it wouldn't snap up and out. But with that parabolic rod, when I'd snap it, look at this, ready? Bam, bam. It's like a rubber band, right? It's spongy. And the line, the fluorocarbon has a little stretch to it. And because of that crankbait, when I snatched it out, get caught in that grass, it would snatch up and out. And that was 100% the key to that win, was how I was fishing that crankbait. The color was chartreuse blueback, chartreuse greenback. The water was stained. I was imitating shad and bluegill. Those pre-spawn fish, staging in that hydrilla, staging in that milfoil, waiting for that temperature to get right to move up on that flat. They wanted that bait snatched out of the grass to come up and out. And the bait, the rod, the reel, the way I fished it, the depth, all that stuff really played into the win. For sure, that win for me was a big one. It came at a critical time in my career, just a few years into doing it professionally. I needed that win. It was an amazing win, and I hope you enjoyed the story and the bait that won the Lake Seminole Bassmaster Top 150. Man, I hope you like this new series on tournament winning baits. If you do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to this channel. We've got more of the series and a lot of great content right out here in the shop coming to you. If you're already subscribed, tell your fishing friends about Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube. We're here to help you hopefully become a better angler. Have a good one, and remember, crankbait, March, Lake Seminole, good. Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli. I hope you enjoyed this week's In the Shop. I hope you learned a little bit. And if you like these videos, remember, there's a whole boatload. Check out these two, and you're going to learn more about bass fishing.